Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the Gnarly Gnome. This is Cincy Brewcast. It's the voice of Cincy Craft. We've got a really good, I always say it's a good show. Some of these have to be bad shows, but this is a good one. I haven't been out here to Paradise Brewing in, God, do you know off the top of your head when I was last here? It's been a long time.
The last time I saw you was out at the East location in Williamsburg.
But when was the last time we actually sat down and did a show?
Oh.
It's been much longer than that.
It's been a very long time.
I think I sat in on one when I wasn't supposed to be on the show.
You're always supposed to be on the show.
No, not at all. But it's been months. Months.
It's been a very long time because
It has been.
I definitely, this was before you guys had even announced that Williamsburg was happening, that it was a thing. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes. Be great.
there's a lot of stuff. Let's start. Let's go around the table. Let's start. It should be all familiar voices on this show, but let's start across from me here. Introduce yourselves and say what you do here, because you've also changed since you were on the show last.
Yep. I am Peepaw, or the Wild Man.
The Wild Man.
Yeah, that's what they call me around here.
Okay.
A lot of
I'm not going to call you that.
A lot of people know me in the industry, so yeah. No, I'm Justin, and I am the brewer at Paradise. So
Both
that's
locations.
Yeah, both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm Tammy Graff. I'm a brewer at both locations and do multiple other jobs as well.
Just a little bit of everything.
Yes.
She cleans a lot of stuff.
She does clean.
Yeah.
Yes. My name is Jeff, and I pilot the ship we call Paradise at both locations.
Let's start there, both locations, because the last time that we sat down here, actually, I don't even think that the taproom had expanded into there the last time we were here. I think it was
Closing
still
down of the
I
home
don't
brewing
even
shop.
know. Yeah, like there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on since the last time we were here. So let's
Been a progression.
let's start for anybody that's new to the show. Let's start from the beginning. What is Paradise? How did this place start? What makes this different than Ryan Geist and Sam Adams?
Oh, how much time do you have? You
It's
got
the
an
internet.
extra
We
battery?
have as much time as we need.
Are you just throwing like other breweries that I worked for?
That's true. you never worked for Sam Adams.
Yet.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's see. In 2007, I, in a former life, used to do electronics. I used to repair home electronics, amplifiers, TVs, VCRs, all of it. And I could see that part of the business was going away. Everybody was just so worried about how much new ones cost. NAFTA was had been established, and they could bring them in cheaper than what we could actually repair them for.
Right.
So it was just a progression of down the drain. We were hoping that high definition, when they brought that out, would change things. But in the meantime, in 2007, I sat on my father and mother-in-law's floor in their living room and sketched out something that I would want to do that I didn't necessarily have to work for anybody else. Had always been self-employed, and I got to thinking about it. And can I take a whole lot of guidance or people telling me what to do when I'm not used to something like that?
Right.
So I thought about the things that, you can go into, like doing a KFC or a McDonald's, a franchise of some sort. But then I thought, well, why don't I stick with something that I enjoy? And not too long before 2007, my wife and my son got me a home brewing kit. And I thought, well, there's only one other guy that's in the city, so that limits my competition quite a bit. Now, Listerman was my other competition, and he
And this is homebrewing.
This is homebrewing supplies and equipment. So it had nothing to do about brewing beer except doing it at home.
Because you have to look back at what the world was like here in Cincinnati at that time. But
Right.
to start a brewery was not the same as it is now. The license was very different. You had
Much more
had to
expensive.
open a brew pub, and it was a very expensive endeavor to do that.
Well, and some of us, and they'll agree with that, learned, like Scott LaFollette, when he had his brewery, Blank Slate, he built it as a brewery, and then they okayed the tap room
Right.
later on. At that, and then he was always, to my eyes, he was always trying to fit a tap room into where he had already scoped out something to manufacture, and it was always a game of catch up. And that's, if you've ever went to his place down in over by Lincoln Airport, the tap room was basically a waiting room out in front. I mean, it was very long, very narrow, and it really wasn't set up like, say, a Mad Tree or.
But even if you look back at Mad Tree 1.0, when the plans first started happening for that, it was kind of the same thing. I don't think they ever
Right.
planned on the tap room being there until all of a sudden, halfway through planning, like, oh, this is going to be a thing,
Right.
and had shift.
Yeah.
That space was not made for a tap room,
No.
and they just had to figure it out.
Right. So back in 2007, I decided to open up a homebrewing shop in the building that we have here on Beachmont Avenue. It was upstairs. I would work my normal 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job, and then I would go upstairs. Just on the weekends, we started out from 6 to 9. So it was 12-hour days for a while, and kind of what we're working right now. But that on a March in 2009, when we got about 8 inches of snow and there was nobody on the roads, nobody around here, we decided to move the homebrewing shop from the upstairs location to the downstairs in front location. We still had the electronics in the back. And then when K6's first year in 2013, I think it was, is when they lowered the cost to become a brewery from about $4,000 yearly to $1,000 yearly. And I just decided to jump in. The first thing I did was not build out anything, because really I thought we were only making 10 and 15 gallon batches at the time and brewing that as fast as we could. And I really thought that the federal government would laugh.
Right.
You want to do what? And how big are you going to be? And really, it got down to be, they did ask me, how much do you want to brew? What are we doing? And they said, for that amount, I'm not even sending anybody out. They just went ahead and did it. And the state sent somebody out to make sure we were in compliance and all that. But the federal guys, forget that. So we received our notification that we were a brewery about November of 2013. And in March of 14, we opened up the back room here in the Anderson department with only 4 beers on, and only open on Friday and Saturdays for 3 or 4 hours. And it's developed from there. I think we built quite the following with some help from investors and everything. We decided to keep going bigger, and so far so good. So
Why?
Now we have 13 beers on.
that's right.
And speaking of beers, let's drink one while we get to the next part of this.
Go for it.
I'm assuming I'm drinking this one first.
You can drink it, either one of them. You want any of them you want.
Do you
Now,
remember what these were that you poured me?
I do.
Okay. Let me know what this one is.
That right
Well,
now,
I think
that is the Area 51 Pale Ale, and I came up with the name of Area 51 because we use when a hop came in from Australia called Galaxy.
Never heard of it.
No,
No, it's a joke.
no. So
I
we.
say, if you've never heard of Galaxy, I literally will punch you in the
Where
face.
have you been?
when they first came out is when I first designed that. And they were doing one hop pale ales all over the place,
Right.
and that's the one that I tried Simcoe, tried
Centennial.
Citra, Centennial, and even Founders has their Centennial IPA, and it's very good. But I decided to stick with the Galaxy.
It's a really interesting beer to me because it has a lot of kind of those softer, fruitier notes
Yes.
from the hops that are all the rage now. But then there's still this big kind of bitter kick that comes in there and kind of
Yeah.
wipes it all clean. It actually balances it out versus half of the hazy stuff that's out there right now. It's a great beer.
Now that one really isn't supposed to be hazy. It's a new keg we put on, and I think you're getting a little bit of yeast.
I'm not talking about the way it looks. I'm talking about kind of the way
Okay.
that fruitiness from the hops
Okay.
kind of presents itself.
Right.
I enjoy that a lot. That's a good beer.
And the other two, we have other two.
We'll talk to them as we get to them.
Okay. All right. I was going to say you probably like it because they are beers that I've had before from other brewers that I've mentioned before that are not tribute to him. They're my rendition of that. And I just hope it one of these days somebody will come by and take, be able to. I was able to spread the love there at one time, but that's been many years back.
Right.
So let's see.
You second location. You decide. You decide after opening one of the city's smallest breweries, you were brewing 10 gallons at a time, which there was a step in between there too, where you guys kind of grew this middle to this 5-barrel, which from what everybody says is about the size that everybody should do now. You should stay in your neighborhood, brew 5 barrels at a time. Don't try to do anything beyond that.
There is a sweet spot that that you have to get, but that is true. There is a certain amount. I think in between 5 and 7 barrels probably is a good size for most people for a neighborhood brewery that's going to do that. I myself wanted to do more around the Cincinnati area than we had beer to do it with. So
what makes you want to do more kind of in the area than you guys were? Like, what is that?
It's probably all just my own twisted opinion of what I think I ought to do.
It's valid.
Probably,
but I mean, you guys were one of the early breweries in town and are still one of the earliest breweries in town that most people still don't know exists.
That's correct.
Which is the product of being a small neighborhood thing.
Right.
You kind of fly under the radar. You can, we can all yell as loud as we want about it, and sometimes people just don't know you're here.
Correct.
And we still are Anderson Township's best kept secret.
I agree.
People that live very close to here and drive by every day and never knew we were here. So word of mouth is what spread us.
I wanted to stop in. I wanted to do that, but they never do. So, but yeah, let's see. So we cruised along. We started out with 3. We went from 10 and 15 gallon batches to purchasing some bigger equipment and went with a 5-barrel batch from Psycho Brew out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, someone here in the States. And it's been very good. There are limitations to it, the way that it's designed, but it does us very well. And we started out with 3 5-barrel fermenters, and we graduated as we went along to 4 5-barrel fermenters. Now we have 5 5-barrel fermenters, and we got to the point where we were still running out of beer, and we were at a point where we can't expand in this building. Although the rent's cheap because I own the building, we don't have room for more parking. We don't have room to put more fermenters. We don't have a way to keep going the way we're going. We could plateau. We could actually, just hit a certain spot. Here's
how big things can get.
That's correct. And then we kept our eye on a piece of property that was out east. We sat in on a couple meetings with them trying to sell it to us at a cost. We just held off. Unfortunately, it ended up going to a bank auction, and we got it from them. We got it from the bank. So unfortunately for the original owner, that he didn't get all of his money back that he put into it. But on the other hand, we got one whopping deal.
And so Paradise East, it's in Williamsburg.
Paradise East is the old location for the brewery that was called the Old Firehouse. and it is in a firehouse that was designated or they christened it a firehouse in 1955. Although what?
52. Doesn't matter.
Well, it's got a. Well, my wife just corrected me, of course, but she said it was 1952. There is a stone that's in the front of it that says 55, dedicated in 55. Whatever, I don't care. But it has 3 giant bays for fire trucks. It had some showers and everything that were devoted for the volunteer firemen that are in there that we now repurpose as wheelchair accessible bathrooms. And yeah, I mean, we've been, unfortunately, when the first owner went out, he was rather cross at people and not really thinking about anybody else coming in to do it. And he burnt a lot of bridges with people either making fun of them or bad mouthing them and things like that. And then when they see another brewery come in, they just know it's that same guy. He's just rebranding it, and and that couldn't be farther from the truth. We had to go away from the original old Firehouse Brewery because of what had happened. I don't agree with anything that guy did, and I hope that people will come out and give us a chance. We have 17 taps out there in Williamsburg, and here in Anderson, we worked up enough to go to 13 taps. So
the brew house out there is what, 15 barrel? Is that right?
It. So what makes it is it's a 15 barrel brew house with 4 30 barrel fermenters, so that we have to brew the same beer twice to fill it up completely and to get a full batch out of it. As of right now, because of our limited amount, it's one thing to make the good beer and have it in your tap room, but it's another thing to move it, to keep it turning, to be able to have your beer out places. That's where it kind of changed my mentality when we were trying to go out with the 5-barrel system out to other restaurants and bars and things like that. We just didn't have enough. It wasn't enough to do that.
Right.
So this came along at the right price, going 6 times bigger than we could do. Although we're off the beaten path a little bit, it seems to us that some of the bigger picture of the whole thing is we have a lot of people moving east. We've got a lot of people coming out.
There's something about, and it's probably some of the things that you don't like about it, but something about the tap room here that it feels like this this clubhousey kind of secret place that other people don't necessarily know about. You walk in and it's going to have a certain vibe and it's going to be comfortable, and you're not going to have a bunch of people kind of staring at you like you're some stranger, and like, you know, it's just it feels very neighborhood focused, and some of that happens with East also. Mm-hmm. Because it's off the beaten path. Right. And because it's not, if it was sitting in the middle of OTR, it would just be another OTR brewery. That wouldn't have any of that character that made Paradise what some of us fell in love with. So like it still has some of that because of it being out there. And like, so it's a good thing that's off the beaten path, in my opinion.
Sure.
Again, it's probably the things that you don't like about it.
So we have some things that are coming. They're in the planning stage, trying to get more people to come out, trying to get, there's a very big Nestle Purina plant that's being put in out there east on 32. And there's another one coming right behind it.
It's literally right next to
it.
So
it's crazy.
It's right there.
It's one of the largest plants in Ohio. I think the only one that eclipses it is the one that is for the semiconductors outside of Columbus.
Right.
But it is like 1.2 million square feet inside, and yeah, they're coming along with it. They've had their ups and downs with that as well, but they're still going ahead with it, and everything's gung ho. And when we get, so we're waiting for that to get up. They're building 800 new homes across the street from it. It's coming. It's all going to be there. Will it ever be as cozy as the one we have in Anderson? Probably not.
It's different though. It's just
We're
different.
working on it though, because we have a new section that's a comfortable section with couches and it's got
Pellet
a
stove
pellet stove and it's got a little area rug and a coffee table, so people can come in and feel like they're at home, like they
Right.
do here at Anderson.
They can sit
I
down.
take a
other
nap
than
there every day.
They can sit at anything but a high top table, and they can sit down and actually talk.
There is
imagine
something
that.
that I enjoy about kind of that taproom feeling though too. Like I crave that now sometimes when every brewery is like your living room. There's all couches and everything's a little too comfortable.
Right.
Sometimes I want the taproom feeling. I
Sure,
want these different
sure.
types of places to go sit
Well,
down.
we haven't necessarily done anything out here to East. It's been we've got it to where we want it and where people are comfortable and they're used to it
Right.
coming in. We've had the odd people come in and they don't like us for a particular reason. Especially my brother is a little standoffish at times. I always tell people that if you ever seen Seinfeld, the soup Nazi, well, there's no soup for you. That's what kind of he does. Calls last call at 6:00 instead of 10, and then
Or as soon as somebody walks in the door.
I'm pretty sure he calls it every time I walk in the door.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Or tell him you're closed.
Or just calls me wild man.
You have to be able to laugh, even with a dry sense. You got to be able to laugh when you come in. If you can't laugh, your experience won't be well.
Right. You have to. Well, you have to give it a minute to kind of figure out what is happening around you and what everything actually is.
I will say that being here, like working here for the last when did I get hired?
For
3
4
months
months or
ago?
so. Yeah, something like that.
4 months.
Yep.
I have never cried once because I fucking love it.
Hey, that's a testimonial right there. Hey.
Put that on
Jeff,
Yelp.
Tammy, and Tom and Justin, everyone has just been like the best people ever, and they like make me laugh every single day.
Right.
Even Jeff, me and Jeff like work together,
Yeah.
like very closely,
Yeah.
and he fucking hates me.
No, that is not true.
Well, he
There
He
are
gets annoyed
times
by
that
me.
There are times I wonder if he's really listening to me.
Yeah, I always wonder if he's
And
listening
most of
to
the
me.
time he says, "What? What?"
I can't fucking hear.
Well, exactly. There you go. See?
So if you look at kind of when you guys started this whole idea with Paradise, and you look at where things are now, it's a very different industry. It's a very different community. It's a very different world.
Yeah. COVID changed it all.
Do you think it was all COVID, or do you
A
think
lot
there's?
of it.
See, I have this.
95% of it, I think. Is
I have this
COVID.
theory that COVID just kind of sped everything up. Like it just hit the
Well-
fast forward button and kicked us way further than we were supposed to be now, as far as how people feel about craft beer.
Possible. I owe it. I mean, being in it, and it's been a chore trying to get people to come back out and enjoy themselves. They want to come out. They really do want to come out. They want to interact, but they just are still somewhere from being afraid to not wanting to waste any money.
I think
You know
that's a
what I'm
big
saying?
part of it too. Is people are afraid to spend money.
As of right now, I agree.
And a
there
lot of
may be
our staff goes to other places as well and checks them out, and we're still the cheapest place
Yeah.
to get a pint.
Oh,
yeah.
where was I the other day? That it was a $9 pint in a tap room of something that should not. Oh, I won't say where it was, but it was.
Okay.
It should not have been $9.
They're all raising their price. We try and keep ours the same. We don't want, we don't have quite the overhead that most of the other guys do.
It wasn't even a pint. It was a snifter of something very normal.
Big or high
No.
alcohol?
No,
I-
like 6%. Something like
I
that.
kind of feel like I know where it is, but I'm
You
not
might.
gonna say
That's
it.
all right. That's all right. We don't need to name names.
I'm not
It's
gonna say
okay.
anything.
Okay.
But it is like it even starts like, and I am very loose with what I spend on beer because it's something that brings me a lot of happiness in my life, which has a lot of areas of unhappiness,
Right.
thanks to my children. But
Easy.
so I'm a little free with what I spend on beer.
Right.
And there's still those days where I sit down and like I'm at a tap room and I have 3 beers or something, and the bill comes. I'm like, oh, how is this what it is? Like how did this happen?
$27.
I was at a spot, a local spot, a place that exists locally. It's not really a local spot. I had a couple flights and I think one pint, and it was like $90
Holy
because of how much they were charging for the beers in the flights. They were charging by the ounce or something.
Lord.
It was insane. Well, and that was with a tip, which again I tip.
I understand the tip, but Lord Jesus,
it was, and I'm like, that was. I just paid $90 for a couple hours of something to
That's
escape
insane.
the normalcy of life. And that,
I thought
painful.
we went to Las Vegas 2 years ago during COVID, and we got off the plane, went over to the Mirage where we were staying. We found this little place inside that actually had a food truck kind of half built into it, and they were serving like walking tacos with that. So we had 2 Elysian Space Dust. Sorry, I'm dropping names. 16-ounce pints and 3 walking tacos. It was $65.
and see, and a walking taco should not be
It
expensive.
should not, it should not be.
And-
That was crazy.
And
It's
Elysian Space
$20.
Dust is made by a giant
Right.
corporation run by Willy Wonka's Oompa Loompas. That
Yes.
it shouldn't be expensive either. Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway,
We were down at the
that's what-
Cyclones game, and I got a beer, and it was my wife was standing next to me, and the beer was like $10, and it was a big can of Coors or something, which was it was a decent size, and she's like, how much was that? I said it was $10, and she's like, that's insane, and I'm like, you think paying $10 at a sporting event is crazy?
Right. Yeah.
And evidently it's been a while since you've been to a Reds game.
Exactly.
Or a Bengals.
screw that.
Or
No,
a Bengals game. That's crazy.
So
good.
like I get this feeling from people that they just it's exhausting that all the time you're spending money on stuff, and it kind of gives you this fear of going out places because you're like I don't even have the energy to go sit down and see how expensive it's going to be to be there, and so I think that's. But I don't know that's COVID's fault. I think it's
No,
I
well,
think it's the economy, and people are just afraid.
Yeah. That would be
true.
more of a
Is-
fear of that.
Is this still as fun as it was when you started?
Yes, but it's a lot more
90,
work.
90% of the time, yes. There's a lot more things that upset me than I used to do.
Right.
it's, honestly, it's just me.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot more things that upset you. You've got Justin now.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got peepaw now.
People. I guess that.
Where did that come
just
from? I
specify.
don't know what this peepaw thing is.
It's Justin.
He's an
It's just
he's
Justin.
an old man in this package.
Yeah,
He's-
just
Yeah.
an old man.
Which is half my age. What does that make me? Oh man.
You're-
Peepaw.
You're much younger at heart than he is.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
You pee your pants just out of nowhere. I just pee my pants.
Not
like,
true.
I try not to, but I didn't need to know that. But that's okay.
I just pee my pants. Just
Okay,
There's
TMI.
Anyway.
Billy Madison
yeah,
reference
right.
in there somewhere.
can we
So
just
the reason we have the gnome by really is to try and promote our 10th anniversary for the tap room here in Anderson.
Yes.
So our original tap room turns 10 on March the 1st. And although
There's another brewery that has an anniversary.
Yeah,
I can't think of who that is. Those little guys.
like
make it
10
scratch
years?
my head.
No, that their anniversary was on March 1st.
Oh,
It was a March 1st joke.
Yeah. Oh, that one.
You know the
Sorry.
Seltzer guys.
I get it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Be nice.
I know those
No,
guys.
be nice.
I love
It all
them.
sells. It all sells. So this is a leap year, so we have 29 days in February. So what with Bachfest being on the 1st of March, we didn't really want to coexist with our holidays, so we're actually going to celebrate our 10th anniversary on the 29th of February, which would really be March 1st, but we're bringing out a special 10th anniversary beer that we aged on red wine barrels for quite a bit, for about over 9 months. So, and I think it'll be a good thing for everybody to try and get a bottle of. It is, just so you know, a Belgian quad. So you're going to be high in alcohol, a little funky tasting, higher in carbonation, but you'll be able to buy a 500 milliliter bottle with our with a cork in it, and we're gonna put wires on it so it makes it harder for you guys to get into it.
You can't just on a random night crack it open.
Right.
Did I drink that
Gotta have
last
some
night?
skill.
You
And-
gotta get
Yeah.
in there and get into it.
Yeah, and then back to back, we're going to go back. We're going to be in the Bachfest parade. We're actually going to have the blessing of the Bach here at Anderson at noon on the 1st, because we'll have our Billy Baru released then. And then we're also going to have a blessing out east at Paradise East in Williamsburg should be around 2:00. In that, I'll make sure we get everybody done so we can do one and then the other. And then we are to everybody come out, and we're going to march in the Bachfest parade, which I paid them, so I'm allowed to say that word.
It is a trademark
It
name
is
for
a
anybody
trademark.
that does not know
let me
that.
tell you, yeah.
And you're coming.
Yeah, I'll be
too,
down
right?
there. I'll be down there.
Hell yeah.
Very good. So
Can I
we were
say
not
that?
going to have we had thought about trying to do the same thing we did with CMI and trying to get a float, like a little, we have a goat, which we made out of a whiskey barrel on 4x4s on a skid, and we pull it around. But since they're going to have Bachfest at many different locations, not just one, I think we're going to not do that this year. We're going to leave the goat at home, although Bachfest is about the goat, but we're going to just give people at the end of the parade just a way to, go out and have a good time
Right.
at one of the venues that they're having it.
It's going to be an interesting year for Bachfest to see how
Yeah.
people adjust to that.
Right,
Everybody
right.
gets done with the parade. Now what?
Right, exactly.
Because I think the parade ends at a spot that is not even one of the Bachfest halls, if I'm correct. So
That's
then you still
correct.
have to get to one of the Bachfest halls to go grab some beer.
And there's 4?
Three, I
Three.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
Rheingeist, Northern Row, and the Lager House.
And Moorline's Lager.
Yeah.
Down
Which I
on
think
the banks.
all of the Bach beers are at Moorline. I think, if I'm understanding this correctly, and I've
Okay.
had trouble getting together with the Bachfest folks to get all of this clarified, but I believe the Bachfest experience, so where you go and you get all the Bach beer, that's at Moorline.
Right.
And then I think,
And that's a ways away
Rheingeist.
from where they end.
Or
Yeah,
They're
it's-
way up by 12th Street.
but there is a streetcar. There's a
Well,
free
that's true.
streetcar
Yeah,
that
yeah.
will take you all around and is actually very fun to drink when you've been, or fun to ride when you've been drinking.
Then there's another reason why we don't bring the goat along with us. Trying to get a goat onto the streetcar would be very
I
tough.
can almost guarantee it's not the first time that a
Could-
goat has been on the streetcar.
Could we get an actual goat?
No.
No,
No?
we're not doing
No.
that. No.
You
No.
can. It'll be your goat.
All right, I'll find one.
No.
Now he's going to go find a goat somewhere.
I
right?
don't care. It ain't my goat.
My
what-
mom lives in the country, so.
well, there's got to be goats around this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Jeez.
Do not take anyone's goats.
No,
we do not
don't-
encourage
do
the
not
stealing
steal.
of goats.
We do not. Do not
we
condone that.
We pet goats. We don't steal them.
Right.
What about on the beer? Actually, let's drink another beer before we
Okay.
finish this one.
Okay.
So what is Gnome's
Ta-ta.
second beverage?
That is as I said before, not an homage beer. It is my version of Blank Slate's Fork in the Road.
So this is What the Fork.
What the fork?
We call it What the Fork, and the reason I called it that because people would try it and go, "What the
upgrade.
fork?" and it was more pronunciation on a different syllable, but that's why I did that.
Can we talk about Blank Slate for a minute? And I know
please
Scott
do.
hates it when I talk about Blank
Ah,
Slate,
well,
but
I know.
he'll get over it. Do you think that, because the memories that I have of Blank Slate were
Mm-hmm.
just the best beer in the city. It was this thing that was unlike what anybody else was doing. It was
Yes.
these classic styles with this little twist on it, just enough of a
Yes.
twist to make it unique and make it something that you haven't tried anywhere else.
Right.
But they were still great traditional styles. And I've got this really great memory of what Blank Slate was.
Mhm.
Do you think that, and this is a very do you think kind of question, do you think that if Blank Slate, number one, if it opened up today the exact same way, if it would still stand out the way that it did then? Or number two, if they were still around, would it look anything like what we remember it to look like, or would it have torn itself apart somehow and been some kind
Well,
of
the way Scott was going was bigger,
right?
so it certainly would have looked different. It would have. and I don't know, and what I'm finding out is when you start going to the bigger batches, you're selling some that have already been proven, so you're not necessarily making as many experimental ones.
Right.
And he was the best at
Yes.
making experimental beers. Yeah, of all the flavors, mushrooms,
Chili.
chili. Yeah, chili.
Yeah.
What else did he have? He had
Sausage
one that,
spice
sausage. Yes,
Yeah.
which we do make. I make
Yes.
one just because of that. And people still talk
Yes.
about it. To this day, they go, well, "How did you ever know?" And I never take credit for it. I just say, it wasn't my idea, but I'm trying to replicate something that I've had before. And I mean, once you get to a certain size, you can't either
play.
have too much time. You don't have that much time because you're always trying to get another market.
Right.
Your whole aspect of what you're doing changes. Now, like you said, when they're coming in and doing 5 and 7 barrel batches, you can turn that on a dime. That stuff's easy to do, and it adheres itself to being to having weird things done, and not because if it doesn't work, what are you going to do with it? I mean, let's just say Scott would have made his Shroominess, which was his mushroom flavored beer, and I know he went through a lot to do it. But let's say he made it and it was lousy. You got 5 barrels that you have to do something with. You can only kill
I think
so
you're
much
supposed to
grass.
distill it now.
Well, yeah, now.
That's
but
Now
not
the
then.
proper
Not
license.
then. If you
You might as well.
right. So I mean, we have people that come into us and say, "Have you ever made a bad beer?" And I say, "Yes, but you've never had it," because I will get rid of it before
Right.
you. I'm not a sour brew house. I'm not really anything on sours, as people know, and I'm very noted for saying that I'm not very good on sours. I
Wait,
just don't think
you
it's
hired a sour brewer, so
No, we didn't.
no.
I mean, technically you did.
You hired on to be somewhere where there's no sours. That's more like it. So, but anyway, being a smaller brew house, 5 to 7 barrels, I know it sounds like a lot. You're what, 150 or 200 gallons. You have a little bit of leeway.
Right.
You have a way of allowing yourself to be more to go out there and experiment, be on the edge more. Because if it doesn't move, or if it isn't good, or if you're not, you're wasting money. But the experience that you get from it allows you to keep going long after that. So I would say if Blank Slate going the way he was going would have stayed in business, I still think the taproom portion of that would have had to change quite a bit in order to get something more of what you would want.
Right. Like I could see, and this is obviously just my thoughts and opinions, but I think it would have changed again. I think he would have been one of those guys that was probably, and I shouldn't say he would have been, Blank Slate would have been one of those places that immediately once the industry turned into kind of what we're seeing today, would have immediately started shifting and trying to be smaller again,
Right.
and would have ended up 5 barrels,
Right.
in just a little neighborhood spot, which I think is what that place kind of always feels in my mind like it was, even when it wasn't. It's
Right.
just what it always was this kind of little neighborhood, tiny little brewery.
Right. And I remember going to him and trying to buy certain things from him when he didn't even have a tap room yet.
Yeah.
It was even before the state of Ohio allowed anything like that. He was more of a guinea pig than anything.
And he drug his feet a little bit too, even once you could have a tap room before
Right.
it actually opened.
Well,
Like,
it doesn't matter where do you put it?
Yeah.
Where are you going to do it? His
He
building
didn't
was
have
set
the
up to
parking or
brew,
the seating.
Yeah.
not set up for a tap room. So, yeah.
Talk about this beer specifically. What is this beer? What do you call this style? Is it a red IPA, India Amber Ale?
No, I would say a red IPA. It is. There are 3 different hops we use in it, and a lot of dry hopping. So, and we use so much that in order to keep it clear, because we don't filter any of our beers, because I tried it years ago and I think it took too much out of the beer. Not let alone it was crystal clear, it was bright and all that, but it just was too much came off the flavor end of it.
We just put biofine.
Just keep putting biofine. Yeah. Well, we throw so much hops at that particular beer that it gets cut. It just makes a big plug down in the bottom of this fermenter. We really have a hard time keeping that beer clear, and we don't get the yield out of it that we normally get with other ones, because you have hop product in there taking up space where you wouldn't have on some of the other ones. But
you just drop it out. Yeah,
it does pretty good now. But anyway, I would call it a IPA, a red IPA, or a
It's delicious. It again, maybe it's just the lack of like actual bitterness in beers anymore, but like it has this really great kind of bitter finish to it that kind of cleans it up for me, and big kind of fuller body than a lot of the beers that I think people are making right now. It's good.
I have found that too, that some of these beers that I have been trying, I don't know if my palate is changing or they're making them lighter. In body.
There's a lot of weird things. Like I notice like lacing on your glass. Yeah. I notice it when I go places all the time now. If like there is like lacing that sticks to the glass, I'm like, oh, that's different. I'm not seeing that lately. Or head retention on a beer. Like there are beers that like should probably have a head on them that don't. I'm like, why is this happening now? Like why? And it's everywhere you go now. And it's like, man, this is strange. I feel like beer is changing, and I don't really know why.
Well, it always
is. Do what?
It always is.
Well, it is, but it's not. I mean, beer has been around for centuries. Like it's.
But yeah, of course it is.
It's not.
I'm just saying, like
some of these styles. Some of the styles shouldn't be changing. If you're making
a good point.
Yeah, if you're making a pilsner, we know what a pilsner is at this point.
Yeah, you got a good point.
If you're gonna make something else, it's no longer that. It's now a Italian pilsner.
That's where all these milkshake beers come in, and I just don't. It's lost on me.
Right, Jeff, I mean, you don't like those?
It's not that I don't like them; they all taste the same.
If you have to drink only milkshake IPAs or sour beers for the rest of your life, which one is it?
Oh my god!
Milkshake for me, please.
He loves.
How about just water?
Milkshake.
I'll just take water.
He loves milkshake IPAs.
I have tried them. Don't get me wrong, and I've tried sours.
No, he loves them.
I would not say a characteristic of what I was trying to relay, but So I'm gonna ask everybody out there, if they within the earshot, a question that I always ask.
You know, everybody they can't answer back, right?
I know.
Okay, just making sure you know that.
But this is
you love some milkshake IPAs.
So my question to anybody that says they love sours is, how would you know if they gave you a bad one?
We can talk about this.
Okay,
I can give you my answer.
That makes
a lot of people. I mean, they love the dill pickle thing from Urban Artifact. A lot of people go, "Wow, that's terrible," without anything stylistically to back up what they're putting out in front of you, because they have so many different variations.
Right.
How would you know if it's good or bad? Does it make you sick, or does it? I mean,
even then, I've drank a whole bunch of good beer that made me sick.
Well,
that's volume.
But if I hand you a pilsner and it doesn't look like a pilsner, it's dark as the ace of spades, and you don't, something's wrong with it.
Sure.
You know something's wrong.
Where
if I hand you a sour, it could be anywhere from very, very light to very, very dark. There's no particular set pattern for that.
I think that
it could take the enamel off your teeth.
Noma's definitely seen a pilsner.
Oh yeah. I've had a pilsner
that didn't look like a pilsner.
So talk to me about how you would know a bad sour.
and this is the very surface answer of it is
Rivertown.
I had Rivertown beers that I really enjoyed. I really, really enjoyed some of those beers. Even towards the end, I enjoyed some of those beers. But that's, I guess, my criteria. Did I enjoy that beer? Do I enjoy it? And if I do, I call it a good beer. If I don't, I call it a bad beer. There are beers that are stylistically perfect, and I'm like, that's a bad beer. I don't like that. And to me, that's correct. I think with sour beer, sour beer is very difficult because you can have a beer that is unintentionally sour, and it was not what they intended it to be,
right?
But is delicious and very enjoyable,
right? And
there's a part of me that thinks that's still okay.
I think we talked about that today.
It's still okay. Hopefully, you as a brewer or as a brewery or even as a drinker, when you walk in somewhere, are hoping for some kind of progression beyond that,
right? And
that they are trying to not do that all the time. But if it's good, it's good.
Right.
Jeff, are we doing a sour?
No.
When we can get really nerdy about this if you want to. When you start going back in time,
we're not going to.
When lager beer started to become an actual thing, they didn't know what they were doing. It was unintentionally turning into what we now know as lager beer.
Correct.
They just kind of figured out over time, hey, when I put it here, it starts to taste better. If I brew it this time of year, it tastes better.
Right.
It wasn't like an intentional thing that they were doing. It was like, this made it taste better, so we should probably just do that again.
Okay.
Was that good beer or was that bad beer? It was good beer done the wrong way.
Okay. But my question still is, you're handed something saying that it's bad inherently because it's soured.
Well, that is
right?
what,
I mean, really, you
maybe.
know what
bitterness.
If somebody it doesn't matter what it looks
for a lot
like.
Of people is the
if
same
they
way,
hand
though.
you a sour, it's going to be sweet tart kind of that kind of. It's bad. It's bad. It's turned.
Jeff,
it's just sour. It's terrible.
It's just Rivertown. That's it.
I don't think so. I think there's something else to it.
Rivertown.
But anyway, that to me.
Jamie, you're
I was never a fan of all that. I did drink some. I've tried the pickle beer and all that, and I'm sure people love it. Fine, that's great. Another thing that I don't know that I could handle, and it's probably just because I'm old, is having two or three of even any of those sour beers. I can have two or three of an IPA. I can have two or three of a red. Ales, lagers, it doesn't matter. But man, if I were to think about even having two or three of any kind of sours, mix them up. I think that would be detrimental to my time the rest of that evening and maybe into the next day.
There is definitely some truth to that. I cannot, if it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm sitting down to watch something on TV, I'm not cracking open a sour beer,
right?
Because then when I go to bed, it's not going to be fun.
It is, I get
it. That's because I'm old.
Maybe it's me too. I'm old.
Because I think I used to be able to do that.
So
it's also.
But the sour thing.
I'm single, so.
Also, once you really have to know what you're doing, dealing with the sour. All the sours and making sure that you don't cross-contaminate into your other ones. Otherwise, they all become sour. And then I just never wanted to play that game of Russian roulette.
And I definitely don't judge anybody for what styles of beer they brew in a brewery. If you don't like sours, you should not make sours.
That's correct.
And I have a lot of respect for places that don't.
I would make the worst sour ever. I can tell you that because I don't
and they would love it.
And they probably would love it. Yes. Perfect.
And that's why I'm honestly surprised that Jeff hired me. Lord Jesus.
He's trusting that you're not just going to go around and start making a bunch of sour beer.
Yeah, right. We're not doing that.
Do it at home.
I said it one time, and he was like, "No,
not happening."
Tell you that right off.
That's been since the get-go.
Are there any styles that maybe are kind of more on that trendy side that you do enjoy, that you look at and you're like, okay, this is a development in a style that I think is interesting, that's fun, that shows somebody kind of pushing in a direction that is more of what I feel brewing should be.
So it's so easy to flavor anything.
Right.
It's not really necessarily having a beer that's flavored with whatever, monk fruit or whatever. It's not particularly that way. It's
fruit.
more stylistically trying to find out, how a beer was made, the steps on making it, rather than the ingredients on what was used. You don't really get a whole lot of that when you buy something out at the store or even at the bar. Unfortunately, you may get it from the representative that sold it to the bar that knows something about it,
right.
but you don't get that kind of people. And the one thing that I made rather recently, it's been in the last few years, but we made a brewed IPA, and that to me is a style I enjoy making. So what we do, we make a 4% beer. Our whole brew recipe is formulated for 4% alcohol. But then at the end of that process, before we start fermentation, we go into the fermenter with it. We add another enzyme which breaks that some of those starches down even farther, which allows the yeast to ferment them out. Which it really and truthfully is one of the low carb beers out there is a brute anything, brute IPA, brute pale ale, whatever they want to make brute, because they call it a brute. It reminds them of brute champagne, being very light, rather higher in alcohol, but not a whole lot of body to it.
That's what I dislike about it, is that there's not enough body for it for me to enjoy it. Like I appreciate the style and it's fun and it's a neat expression of hops a lot of the time, because there's not a lot of other things to go against the hops.
Right. Well,
which I like.
Yeah. I mean, they don't. You can use a lot of things in brewing, but it still comes back to 4 things. So
it should.
It should.
Yes, it should.
It's not even anywhere close to being accurate anymore. The majority of beers out there have all kinds of other stuff.
Well,
you're
probably right. Yeah.
That's an interesting thought too within it. Like if we looked at, like, if we took every beer that was on tap in the city right now, what is that percentage of them that are brewed traditionally or with traditional ingredients versus with something else going on?
Yes.
I think it's getting less and less.
Less and less
Traditional.
Beer. I feel like we're shifting back to traditional a little bit. Like I feel like if we had looked like 2 years ago, I think there would have been a higher percentage of non-traditional stuff than there are like today. And maybe that's just my perception because of some of the other places that have opened up that are kind of traditional heavy, because that's, they're people that are kind of still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and happy about beer. I don't know.
Brandy at Wooden Cask is a good one to make British beers.
Yeah.
I don't know that he makes a whole lot of flavored stuff.
He does make them, though.
He does make them, but that's not his
I don't
forte.
know. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I think I can. There is a milkshake sour coming on at Wooden Cask.
Oh, really? There you go.
Oh, yeah. Which I would have, like, if you had asked me.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah,
I'm telling.
I would have never.
Was it a kettle?
I assume so. I don't know all the details.
I was just.
It's a.
Of course it is.
No, you can add.
What is it made with? It's like something in lemon, cherry lemon, maybe something. It's good. It's good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a good sour.
Yeah,
Listen to that, America. That's a good sour.
I think there is something to that too, with milkshakes or sours or whatever the thing is that that a lot of us think in our heads we don't like.
Right.
Like, it's fun sometimes just
If
every
it's
once in a while.
If it's not,
Right.
And just
right.
and I'm not telling you have to go try sour beer.
It's gonna be a
have.
kettle sour.
Yeah,
That would be the only way, only possible way.
but like it's fun, like, to take styles that I think that I don't like, and just every once in a while just keep going back to them and be like, oh, this is definitely different than the last time I tried it. And this is definitely something that I'm getting this new thing out of it. And every once in a while something then catches and they're like, oh, I love this style. People say with IPAs all the time, oh, I don't like IPAs.
Right.
I don't like bitterness. And then something clicks one day and all of a sudden you can't get enough of it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
I think some of those kind of trendier styles. I think people should try them more often than they do. It's easy
so
to
many different varieties
get
of
curmudgeon-y,
styles
though,
too.
as craft beer drinkers. Like, we want this thing that we miss about craft beer, and so sometimes we rebel against the new stuff that the kids are making.
Right.
And, it's
I get it.
Hey, hold on. Am I a kid?
I don't know what you are, man.
I don't either.
Your
Well,
name
there
is
you go.
Peepaw. It's confusing.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's drink
Okay.
this
So-
last one here. This is one of my favorite beers that you guys make. If it's the one I'm thinking it is.
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
I did it only. One of the last times I gave you a beer that resembled that. It was in a crowler.
Yes.
And you danced around.
I did dance.
You danced behind your bar.
It was
and
more of a
danced.
jig.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
happy moment.
If I remember, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Honestly,
to,
honestly, I love that.
It was good. You were so happy. Oh,
Yeah.
so happy.
I'm
This is-
almost gonna cry.
Tell me about this beer while I drink it.
Well, what you're having is what we call the Night at the Opera. And another, not homage to Blank Slate, but we wanted to make a flavored coffee stout.
Sweet.
And a sweet stout, yeah. So we
That's
ended
great.
up coming up with our own stout recipe, and then we steeped some flavored coffee in it, which that was unusual to me because you don't grind the coffee. It's
Right.
not like you want to pick up the really bitter parts of the bean. You just want to get the flavoring off and the essence of the coffee, and turned out really well. What we have to watch out for is making it too sweet. It does have lactose in it. If you're lactose intolerant, don't drink a whole lot of it. But
Well,
we do that only to offset the coffee and the black malts that we use for it.
Well, and I think I obviously Blank Slate Opera Cream Stout is the homage that you're talking
Right.
about. I don't know if you said that or not.
I said it wasn't an homage, so
Well, that you are. This is
Trying to
Scott doesn't get
reproduce.
mad at me.
well. This
Just
is
saying.
this is
Scott,
a,
if you're
a
listening,
nod to a beer.
Right.
Don't,
It
don't
isn't a-
listen.
He'll get mad at me. He won't get mad at anybody else. Trust me.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He this beer, I don't remember good enough what his beer tasted like, and I think that's part of the problem. Part of the great thing, though, too, is that
Right.
you have this memory, and you loved it.
Yep.
I remember this flavor, and it can live in this spot that nothing else can touch.
Right.
There are currently two beers that are nods at the style. We'll call it the style,
Right.
because it did kind of create its own little style. There's this one, and then Braxton recently released their Opera Cream Stout. And what I love, I love Braxton.
I know you do.
It's all right.
They're two very different beers.
Right.
Cough in my throat.
Your take on the style and their take on the style are two vastly different things. Theirs is very sweet and very almost like cake like,
Right.
and this still has some of that great kind of roastiness, and the dark malts are still there. That kind of that little bit of kind of tannic bite behind the sweetness. Like it's really, really well balanced. I know I've probably said that with every beer that it's balanced, but
Right.
I love
Yeah.
this beer. Every time I drink it, I remember how much I love this beer. I really,
what
really
it
enjoy
is.
it.
That beer, like, I've had both, and this one is like
Yeah, it's
there.
It's a really good beer, but I would say that the other one is a great beer too. It's just a different beer. Like it's two completely different sides of the same coin. And
Then we did this. We made a raspberry stout one time, a black raspberry stout, before Braxton went in with graters. And then we made ours.
They came out
and-
with theirs shortly after we did.
yeah.
right.
So
I
and
can't.
then you
I
tried
can't say anything
ours
about
compared
Craters
to
right
theirs, and it was kind of the same. Kind of the same.
I don't
thing.
even
There's-
remember that.
now. I'm gonna shut my
Did I do
mouth.
that on a video?
Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
need
sure
to go
you
look
did.
at that.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you did. Yes,
It sounds like something I would do, but man, I have no recollection of that.
I'm pretty sure you're
That's funny.
saying that. I don't know what you said about it. It's been a while ago.
Yeah.
A couple moons.
Yeah. Oh no, that was a while ago.
Moons ago. So
I could drink this beer every day. This is still one of my favorite beers in the city. We'll put it that way.
Have you tried our Day at the Opera?
I have. Again, it's been a while though.
Because that's another one that's
well, Darkness makes another
phenomenal.
coffee, a blonde coffee stout. What's it called?
Mayan Sacrifice.
Mayan
That's one of my
Sacrifice.
favorites. That's not.
But
even ours.
theirs has like chili peppers and stuff in it too. It's
I don't.
Mayan
think so.
Sacrifice does. Yeah, there's some kind of spice component going on there. Not a lot, but
I never
it's,
got that from it.
it's definitely there.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong.
It's a delicious beer.
It is a good beer.
I have no idea. I've never been there.
You're no help.
It's usually
Darkness is a very neat little place.
I love
too.
Darkness.
Yeah,
There,
I know it is. I've never been there.
Well, we don't get out.
It's a
very
wonderful beer, and
Yeah,
it's
I don't
usually
either.
on tap at Jungles. So
Yeah.
if I'm going there and if I want to have a beer, that's typically what I'll get when I'm there.
It's usually there, and then like we usually get it at our Jungle Gyms on the other side of town. It's usually there in bottles, just hanging out on the shelf like
Really?
all the time,
Yeah.
and like
At
which is
For real?
it's one of the few places that that's
You know, I
there's
live
not
there
a lot
now.
of. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
There's
I'm there now.
I didn't know that.
I lived near Fairfield.
There's not a lot of places where you can go to get Darkness beer distributed like that. And
right.
which is always
I
right
I
there.
have
That's
seen
right
them
for
at
me.
the Party Source, but
Yeah.
not that I bought anything. I was just walking through some of the other cans. And who else? Big Ash had theirs down there.
Really?
They actually had a can.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And who else? There was another one that I didn't think I would see, but
There's
yeah,
there's a lot of places packaging now that surprised me that they were
Yeah.
packaging. Big Ash, it was pretty quick that they started packaging, but it
Yeah.
was a little shocking that they
Yeah.
were going to go that route. MPH up in Montgomery, they have packaging now, which completely caught me off guard.
For
Especially,
real?
yeah, it caught me
Oh,
off guard.
Shit, I didn't know that.
cool.
But I think it's
mean,
just
crap.
out of their tap room. I
Crap.
don't know.
Shit.
I don't understand why anybody does anything anymore. None of it makes sense.
well, they must think they're going to make money at it. That's the only. That's what.
It's fine.
That's what proves. That's what they got to. They got to run the numbers to say, hey, we're going to make X amount of profit on this.
You hope
If it
everybody's running the
sells.
numbers.
Well, what do you say? Well, I mean, that's how it's normally done. I'm just
Ideally,
saying.
that's what people are doing, but I'm not sure
Right.
that everybody is doing that.
I get it. I get it.
Is there anything about craft beer right now that like you look at and that makes you nervous about this industry? Like, do you look at things and be like, man, we need to start, making bread or something instead?
No, actually, that's what I was going to say. It's surprising how many tap rooms want to do food as well, and I
Ooh.
understand that the food keeps them there. The beer may bring them,
Right.
but the food will keep them there for a longer period of time. Now, my problem is if you do beer really well, why the push to go? Why can't you just bring food trucks in? I mean, there's a blue million food trucks that would love to. And I know in the wintertime they don't necessarily all of them run, or
And reliability on food trucks is not
it's a
always
little
awesome.
bit right. But when you're doing and I hate to throw somebody under the bus, but Mike Dewey at Mount Carmel, they were kicking butt doing beer, and now they've had the carriage house,
Yeah.
and it all turned to food, and unfortunately, you don't hear as much out of them. Now they may be making a lot of things, and they may be making them great as well, and I hope they are. But it's always about the food now. It's not about the beer like it used to be. Come porch sit with us
Yep.
and all of that. They burned that even into my brain, and that's not so much of that anymore. It's come have a burger and
Wings.
and the beer, and wings, and then your beer will be what it is. And I don't know.
There is a happy middle ground between the two. I like the places that are having like a food partner, or even we talked about Darkness. Darkness owns their food,
Right.
but it's still in a food truck out on
out
their
front.
patio.
Yes,
It feels
yes.
Separate
It still
entity.
feels separate. It feels like a separation between the two businesses, and I know that's kind of artificial, but
Right.
but that's the way it feels when you walk in. It still
Right.
feels like, oh, this is about the beer, and like, yeah, there's always food here,
Right.
but that's not what it's about. But even if the food is good. And so like when you have a food partner and you have a brewery and they come together, I like that. I like knowing that if I go somewhere and I'm bring my wife or something, she's not going somewhere without food. Or she does, she's not hanging out for very long. She's like, if you're taking me out, we're gonna eat.
Right.
So it's I appreciate a place that
you just don't want the focus to leave what you made well.
I think that's a big part of it. It's just the focus on it. It still is a brewery. I want to go to a brewery. I don't want to go to a restaurant.
Right. Yeah.
And for me,
I certainly wish Kathleen and Mike all the luck in the world doing what they're doing. I'm sure they're kicking it.
Their food is great. It's good. Yeah. It's a great place to sit and have lunch.
And I don't
or dinner.
we don't get to go out a whole lot these days, but if that's what they wanted to do, that's great. But they built everything on the back of beer.
Yeah.
And I hate to see them get away from that. And I maybe they have to.
Well,
but
and not to I'm gonna piss everybody off this show. Not to assume anything about their business or where they're at in their business, but
correct.
If they're kind of done with it and they're like, you know what, like at some point we got to get out of this and we need to find a way to make this attractive towards somebody else coming in and taking over this business. Maybe that's something you have to do. Maybe
well, we've evolved as we've gone. So maybe that's part of
we're just waiting for somebody to have a bunch, deep pockets and come in and buy us all out. What the hell? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
I tried.
It was a pun. It was a joke.
Learn to take understand that.
So remind people again, anniversary party, February 29th.
Correct.
So
that'll be a Thursday.
Day.
Thursday the 29th. We will be releasing the anniversary beer at that time. We'll have it on tap as well as having it in bottles to take home. And then followed up the next day with Bachfest, and we're going to have the blessing of the Billy Baru Bach beer at both places, along with I went to Averill Blay and had some beer sausages made out. So that was one thing I missed from when they kind of broke up Bachfest, is they used to go down and meet at, I think it was Old St. Mary's that's down there and over the Rhine. What a beautiful church that is too on the inside. It's really nice. But they would go up and do the normal march and then come back, and then everybody would go in the church, and it was very respectful. It wasn't any shenanigans when that was happening. It was all on the up and up, and then they just had a changing of the guard there, and the new priest said he wasn't going to do it. At least that's the understanding that I have. So I missed that for a few years, and then I thought, well, why don't I just, we're right next to a Catholic church here.
Right.
We're right next to Immaculate Heart of Mary, one of the biggest parishes now in the city or in Hamilton County. And why wouldn't I want to bring them in on the fun and the festivities if we can join the two and still do that? And we bent a couple of ears on some people that were willing to come in and redo that. So we're doing it at, normally we would just do it at the Anderson location, but this time we're going to do it at both locations.
I love
just
that.
a couple hours off. So we'll do it first here at Anderson and then go out to Berg and do the same thing. So it since we have two places, they will all be included on it.
And we'll have Lent-friendly food trucks at both locations in the evening.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of kind of bringing the Bach experience a little bit to Williamsburg, who doesn't get a lot of Bach love.
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
But they like the Billy.
Unless it says Coors Light, Miller Light.
You're going to have to explain to a lot of people
Light,
what
Miller
Bach
Light.
beer is.
Yeah, right.
That's a joke, guys. I know that there are craft beer drinkers in Williamsburg. I'm just joking. Just pissing everybody off.
Are you sure?
But we do have the Wildcat Light to help Williamsburg.
Yes, we do have a light beer of our own making that we named after the high school mascot of a Wildcat. So we had to have something to tie it back to the neighborhood.
Oh, of course.
It's important. Like that's like one of the things that makes people fall in love with a spot is where it is and like how it incorporates itself with the neighborhood. Or with the bigger city at large. Like that's what makes craft beer.
Right.
Like it's
Exactly.
It's a big
Trust
part
me,
of it.
I've been in the industry long enough to know that.
Right.
So.
Yep. All right, that's our spiel.
And one more
That's what we
thing,
got.
just to
Uh-oh.
note,
knows enough.
Well,
we were the best of the East in the voting.
Yes.
And Paradise won the best brewery on the east side of town. So that'll be in their magazine this spring. So that was quite an honor and
That's
exciting.
awesome.
we have
That's
a lot
awesome.
of people that voted 17, 18 times
Well,
a day.
that's-
No, it was once a day.
I'm just kidding.
Every day,
I'm
once a
just
day.
kidding.
It's a good testament to the community that has
It
formed
is.
around you guys, though.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know, you guys
Can
are
I-
doing something right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, can I say the F word?
No,
It depends what
no,
the F
you
word
can't.
is.
That's
no.
freaking awesome.
Free. Free.
No,
we
free
don't
is
say
not a word.
free.
I said freaking.
Oh, okay.
Is
Thank
there
you,
Friggin'
Noam, very
awesome.
much.
no? Thank you guys. Is there anything else you want people to know about Paradise that you think they don't know?
Just come out and see us.
Yeah.
Come out. I'm sure we've changed since the last time most of you have come out to see us. So
It is an awesome spot to go hang out. It still is old school. Tap rooms, when you fell in love with tap rooms, it's I love it. I wish it was closer to me.
And now they got peepaw.
That's right. Now they've got people.
They hate that.
The beer is fantastic, and that should be the first thing that you mention anytime you talk about a brewery. But for some
Yes.
reason, it's not. We talk about all this other stuff.
Well, that's
but the
a-
beer is great.
thank you.
We'll be back next week. We're going to talk about, I don't know what we're talking about next week. I never know, but it'll be good. And if you like this show, if you like any of the things that I do, go to thenarlygnome.com/support. And it helps me, and it helps my wife not yell at me. So do that. Cincy Brewcast, the voice of Cincy Craft.